welcome again to my Creating Compatibility series. This is Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony. And I don't know how many other videos you've watched so far, but today this is going to be focused on Venus, okay? So if you haven't watched the overview video for this series, I recommend that you do so you understand kind of what we're doing here. We're focusing on a different planet, so a different character, and a different heart math technique each week here. Okay, so today we're going to be working on Venus and the heart lock-in technique through heart math. And so Venus is very much related to the heart. It's very much related to what we love, what we adore, what we prefer. Okay, a lot to do with our preferences. That also includes relationship style, you know, how we like to relate to others. Okay, so it's a very sociable planet and energy. And so when it comes to compatibility, it's very, very important planet to look at, and it's often overlooked. And when it differs from our sun sign, it can make a big difference. So we're going to go over these two things in conjunction. So just a reminder, just like Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So astrology, again, does not, it's not something that tells us what our fate is. It's literally the unconscious information that if we make it conscious, really can help us understand how to navigate this world and our relationships and our compatibility, etc. And so again, the 5 planets that we're looking at, or the 5 characters we're looking at in this series, they're all up here. These top 5 here: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And today's planet is Venus. And just a reminder, the fire, air, earth, and water elements, okay, they relate to the Wizard of Oz theme, like I mentioned in the overview video. But just to remind you, you know, earth is that practicality, the grounding, the things that support us. You can think of Dorothy as presuming that she was missing that in her life. That's what she was looking for. She wanted to go home. No place like home. That was her thing. Fire, we have related to the lion. So fire has to do with courage and initiative, etc. And that's what the cowardly lion assumed he was lacking, right? And then we come over to the air, and this has to do with intellect and thought and communication and brain. Okay, and so that's the scarecrow, thinking that he lacks the air. And then finally, we have the Tin Man, who assumed that he's lacking the water. That is the depth, the emotion, the heart, essentially. Okay, so we're going to talk about Venus in all 4 of these elements and how it functions. And just a reminder, fire includes Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Earth includes Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Air as Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And then in the water, we have Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Okay, and so our Venus sign can differ from our sun sign. Like this, again, is my chart. And so these are the 5 characters where they land in my chart. And you can see that the characters are in different signs. My sun is in Pisces, but my Venus, since we're talking about Venus in this case, that's in Aquarius. So very different energy than Pisces. So my relationship style or my preferences is very different than what one would assume if we're talking about Pisces energy, okay? And so a lot of us have a different Venus sign than our sun sign. So it can make a really important distinction when we're looking at typical sun sign compatibility assumptions, okay? If our Venus signs could be out of compatibility or have more difficulty creating the compatibility between them, it doesn't matter what our sun signs look like as far as energetic potential compatibility or ease of which we can get there. Okay, and so we're focusing on Venus, like I said. And so just to reiterate, it's our values. It's how we prioritize things over another. You know, what is important in my life versus someone else's life. It's our style and relationships. It has to do with like what we find beautiful. You know, how we socialize, and you know, our level of receptivity in a lot of ways. And so here we have fire, earth, water, air over here. So we're going to discuss Venus in all of these signs and how they differ from each other, but then also how we can understand how we would need to work on creating that compatibility between differences. Okay, so fire, okay, what I'm using here is what I call the rock analogy. So again, Venus has to do with like how we appreciate things. Okay, and so if we just, this is a good time here. It's I'm recording this just before Halloween, so we're entering the holidays. And so when it comes to getting a gift, you know, in this case, we're just going to say that it's a rock. Let's say we got a rock as a gift, right? All 4 of these elements. How would Venus and those elements be able to appreciate that rock? Okay, they all have a different reason for why they might appreciate it. So in the fire example, okay, so this is people with Venus in Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, even if your sun is in a different sign. And so when it comes to getting this gift of a rock, right? You know, Venus Venus in fire is the kind of energy that wants something exciting. They desire excitability. They desire, surprises. Okay, so one thing that could make a fire Venus appreciate just getting a rock would be that they were surprised to get it. So it's kind of funny, right? So they can get some humor out of that because they kind of like the element of surprise. I mean, obviously they would want other things along with the rock, Venus and fire, but it's not that they could find some appreciation there. But really, what fire energy likes is kind of notoriety. You know, Leo is one of the signs that's in the fire, and so the idea that rock, if it had their name on it, right? If the rock has their name on it, their picture, associated with it, something that really highlights them, their ego on some level, that can make them appreciate that rock a little bit more. So fire energy is all about, as far as desirability and whatnot, it's about loving surprises. It's about loving something that is personal and catered to that individual. You know, like this is mine. It has my name on it, etc. Okay, so you can kind of get the idea of Venus and fire. Venus and air, and this is what I have, Venus and Aquarius. Oh, actually go back up here before we do that. Venus and fire, when it comes to relationship style. Okay, so Venus and fire likes newness again. So this is going to be someone a lot more comfortable than, say, some of the other elements when it comes to like a first date, and the idea of like a new possibility, a new interest in their love life or whatnot. So there can be some issue with Venus and fire with settling down and being satisfied, okay? Because there is always that sense of needing excitement, needing something new. That doesn't mean that no one with Venus and fire ever gets married or anything like that, but the relationship has to have some kind of fun aspect to it. It has to still be fresh for Venus and fire to be satisfied, essentially, okay? I'm going down to Venus and air. Like I said, I have this as well. So this covers Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. Okay, so Venus in air is all about appreciating essentially what the story behind something. Okay, so this is a kind of type that really appreciates the story behind, for example, this gift of a rock. Where did the person that gave it to them get the rock? Why did they choose that rock and not another rock? What made them decide to get the rock? So Venus and Aries are very curious, and so they appreciate the sense of the answers to the questions why and how a lot more than the other elements. And so a Venus and Air recipient of the rock can find appreciation if there's a good backstory to the rock, if there's some kind of note attached to the rock that kind of gives an explanation of where it came from and why it's special, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just an intellectual appreciation coming from Venus and air. And so when it comes to relationship style, people with Venus and air signs really like their sovereignty, their space, okay? Really like, think about air, it's all about space, right? It's that gap in between. And so Venus and air is very independent, and they like to have their own space within relationships. So the idea of being smothered with jealousy and those kinds of heavier emotions doesn't really appeal to Venus and air. And speaking of like jealousy, like Venus and fire, they like it when their partner is jealous. They kind of, it's exciting to them, okay? Whereas Venus and air, now we have someone that is turned off by jealousy, and I can relate to that, okay? And so it's the idea of like being able to maintain your individuality no matter how connected you are to another individual, however deep that relationship is. It doesn't mean they can't get deep, but it just means that there has to be a maintenance of that individuality throughout life. So they cannot get swallowed into a codependent sort of relationship, okay? Venus and Earth, okay? Earth, again, is practical, grounded, stable. And so people, Venus and Earth, they really appreciate the practicality of a gift, for example. Okay, so this rock, they gave this rock for a gift. If it comes with a list of uses for the rock, like you can use it as a paperweight, you can use it as a bottle cleaner, put some water in a bottle of the rock and shake it up, and it can help scrape off bacteria and whatnot. You can use it as fill in the blank. So the idea is if you had a whole bunch of different uses for the rock, now someone with Venus and Earth can start appreciating it as a gift, as a very useful gift, right? And so that's the practical nature of the Earth energy. And so relationship style for Venus and Earth is going to be practical, stable, predictable. So these are people that kind of like a certain sense of knowing what to expect. Okay, so they're not going to be into flakiness. They're not going to be into people who can't commit. Most people with Venus and Earth are totally okay with committing and sticking with one person for a long time. That's totally in their comfort zone. Okay, so the newness and surprises are not their favorite experience. So you can imagine someone with Venus and fire trying to be with someone with Venus and Earth, even if, let's say, they both have what we would consider compatible sun signs. Let's say they're both air signs, right? One's a Libra, one's a Gemini, and according to all these astrology books, they're supposed to be well together, supposed to go well together. But what if that one with the Libra has Venus in Sagittarius, and then let's say the Gemini has Venus in Taurus? Okay, it's that Taurus versus Sagittarius fire to Earth. That there's two different ways of appreciating life. The one with Venus and fire is always going to want that newness and excitement. The one with Venus and Earth is always going to want the familiarity and the reliability. Okay, so there can be a clash there. So this could so I'm doing more personal relationship examples here, but in a work environment, for example, this can also come into play, where one person can appreciate the predictability of the boss, and another one is bored, senseless by it. Okay, going down to Venus and water. So remember, water is depth, and it's like sentiment and feeling and all the things that have to do with the emotional level of things. And so people with Venus and water, similar to Venus and Earth, they don't like the boat getting rocked too much in the relationship world. When it comes to appreciating a gift, so Venus and water can really appreciate any gift from someone if it's from someone that means something to them. So if they have their favorite grandmother or something, and that grandmother gives them a rock, they don't need any explanation as to where it came from. They don't need to have their name on it or anything. They don't need to have any use for it. Someone with Venus and water appreciates a gift because it was given to them by someone they care for. Okay, so they can really appreciate anything. So that's kind of the value of Venus and water, is the ability to appreciate anything so long as the person who gave it to them has meaning to them. Okay, so it's not about the gift. It's a little deeper than that, as water is that depth. Okay, and in relationships, these are individuals that can get very attached, to their partners, and it can be very hard to be apart in some cases. Now you can imagine, just as an example, with Venus and water versus Venus and air. If you remember, Venus and air, very detached, independent. They want their individuality maintained. Venus and water it finds codependence comfortable on some level. They find the idea of being stuck together a good thing, something that they actually think, oh, this is great. We get an extra layer that makes it more difficult to split up. And so Venus and water can get clingy. Okay, doesn't mean everyone with Venus and water is clingy, but the idea is that there's that nature, and there's that desire for eternal closeness, which if the person isn't consciously healthy, in other words, if they get a lot of unconscious things they haven't processed, that can manifest as codependence. Okay, so but they're also going to be by your side forever. So this is the kind of person that can have eternal devotion. So similar to Earth, again, that sense of being together a long time. This individual can actually build a deeper and deeper connection over time, versus, like, say, the Venus and fire that wants that something new all the time, and Venus and air that wants their space, right? So you can imagine that, water and earth go to bed, it's easier to see how water and earth go together more easily, and fire and air go together more easily rather than going across the space here. And that's just the feminine nature of the water and earth and the masculine nature of fire and air. Okay. But it really does play itself out in this rock analogy and in this idea of, relationship style and preference. So we all have different ways of being. That's really the bottom line. All different ways of preferring things and appreciating things. And this just kind of shows us the differences. And so just another reminder here, it's very important thing to learn to talk to people that we disagree with. So the person who appreciates the rock because it came from their grandmother is not the right one, right? And just like they can't be looking at the person with, Venus and Earth and say, hey, why does it need to have a practical use for it to be a valuable gift, and because there's some value in the Venus and Earth as well, being able to use what's in their environment and have something practical to use it for. So no one's right or wrong. Again, we're not going to find peace if we're trying to make other people wrong that aren't the way we are. So peace is not the balance of conflict. It's not the absence of conflict. It is the balance of conflict. So we're never going to get away from conflict. And this is, again, this whole exercise is about getting conscious of the unconscious. And just a reminder back to the HeartMath information. So again, if you haven't seen the overview, recommend seeing the overview to talk about what all this stuff means. So resilience, if you remember, is that capacity to handle stress, essentially. So just like we can't avoid conflict, we can only balance it. We can't avoid stress either, but we can be more resilient within it. And that's what HeartMath tools are about. Is, the breathing techniques that help get our heart into the healthy rhythm. And so a healthy heart rhythm looks like the one on the bottom. Again, that's the heart rate varying. In this case, it's varying from about 60 beats to about 85 beats per minute. And so that's what a healthy heart rate looks like. It's not a constant rate. It's a rising and falling rate of speed of your beat. If you're stressed, this is what it's going to look like. And if we just go back to that analogy of, gas mileage, you're going to get a lot better gas mileage on this road than you are on that road. Okay. And you can understand why stress makes us tired, why it wears us out, right? Wears out our gas tank runs out quicker. And so we don't have the devices for these videos, but these are the devices you can obtain. You just clip it on your ear and you can literally measure your heart rate variability. So you can do these HeartMath techniques in the face of conflict in our attempts to create compatibility and find balance. And we can measure before and after and during, what to help consciously put ourselves into a good heart rate variability. And just to review here too, the electromagnetic field around a human is there. It's anytime you have electricity flowing, you're going to have magnetic field. And so the heart, every time it pumps or it beats, there's electricity involved there. And so we have a magnetic field, and this can affect others. And so we're talking about Venus here in relating to others and what we prefer in relationships. And so it's important to know that our state of electromagnetic resonance can affect others. And just to go back to that experiment we talked about in the overview. And so this was an experiment where there was 10 groups of 4. In each of those groups, 3 of the individuals went into a room with a 4th individual. And so the 3 individuals were trained in controlling their coherence. So they're doing the breath work and getting their heart to coherence. And the 4th person was not. And so when they got in there, the 4th person didn't really know why they were in the room, but their heart rate variability as measured by the devices came into coherence without them knowing how to do it. And it was because of the people in the room. And so there's a real scientific basis for this. We can get into the physics of it, et cetera, but this is something that really does affect us if we can consciously get our energetics under control. We can affect a room. Okay. So as far as emotional energetics go, our emotions and attitudes affect others positively, negatively, whether or not we are aware of it. We don't have to know about it, like that 4th person in each of those groups wasn't even aware about it. And when we're centered and in sync, we can create that coherent field and be less affected. So more sovereignly protected from anyone who's out of balance, right? And so we can create that field environment for a better team coherence, for better family coherence, and for just a more productive environment. Okay, so the technique, the HeartMath technique specifically, is called the Heart Lock-In technique, and it's perfectly appropriate because Venus, again, has a lot to do with what our heart's desire is. Okay, it's related to what we prefer, what we like, etc. So it's a really, really simple one. And so if you've seen the other videos, I'm not sure if you have, but using the basic heart-focused breathing. Okay, so that's where you're concentrating on the heart, and you're breathing in and out slowly, about 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And that can get you into a state where you're coherent. And so your heart rate variability is in a healthy place. And in this case, what we're doing is we're conscious, once we're in the state, we consciously activate and sustain a positive feeling, a positive emotion of appreciation. Okay. And that kind of, if you think of that as building inside of that, that healthy heart rate variability, and then we radiate it. Okay. And so it's a visualization exercise essentially. So we're actually getting our heart rate variability into coherence, and we're choosing to feel a certain positive emotion, and then we're just allowing that to radiate outward from us. And when you get a group of people doing that, then it really tightens up the vibe within that group, within that space. And so it's something that can be done, within a few minutes, really. So it doesn't take long, but it's really just a way. So like if we come to an impasse where there is some difference in our preferences because we have Venus in one element or another, there's no right or wrong, but we can always balance the conflict by coming into this kind of state. Okay. And so the Heart Lock-In technique is a powerful tool to create beneficial and sustained changes. That's really the key, that we're not just doing this for a minute, it's meant to sustain and reverberate for a while. Okay. And it's at the physiological level, which is imperative for building a new baseline of resilience. So in other words, a new place from which we can handle stress, essentially. And building a new baseline is like laying a new foundation or downloading a new operating system. In practical terms, it means things that once triggered, you don't get under your skin as easily anymore. And so you can operate from that new set point. And so that's really like the definition of growth. Maturity is that ability to not be triggered by the same patterns, right? And that's something that this technique has been shown to help alleviate. Okay. And so consistent practice of this technique helps create that new baseline, and then you can help others become more coherent just by being in their space. And that's a very powerful tool to have in your tool belt, is that ability to come into a chaotic space and bring that to the space. Okay. So again, everyone is here to learn something different, and that's why we do things differently. So no one's ever right or wrong. It's just differences of opinion, differences of style. Okay, so take the best, leave the rest from this lesson here. Here, everyone, follow no one. That's my advice. And remember, to be free, we must disagree. So we're never going to feel free or experience freedom if we're obsessed with agreeing or pretending to agree. So if we can admit where we disagree, in other words, make the unconscious conscious, that truly is our freeing opportunity. Okay, so thanks again for watching another video in this series. Be sure to watch the overview video in this playlist if you haven't, and make sure to watch the other videos, the other characters, for more information on where the planets fall in the elements, and then the HeartMath techniques that can be used alongside those characters for everything we're talking about here in the process of creating compatibility. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video as well. And I look forward to seeing it again. And I hope you can finish out all the videos in this series. And I will see you again later. Thanks a lot.